Rain slammed the Oshodi underbridge. Traffic crawled. Water ran in dirty lines down the concrete pillars. Inside a black Bentley with tinted windows, a man in an expensive navy blue suit lifted his eyes from a glowing tablet and froze. There, by the edge of the road, stood a woman in a faded Ankara dress, soaked to the skin, hair plastered to her cheeks. She held a blind man's arm with both hands, guiding his wooden walking stick around a broken gutter. Their palms were open for help. Their lips shivered. People hurried past them, as if they were invisible. The man in the Bentley leaned forward, heart thudding. His voice cracked into the quiet air-conditioned silence. "Driver, stop." The car glided to a halt. His eyes widened. His breath caught. "Sophia?" The woman looked up. The world inside the Bentley went silent. 4 years earlier, the sun burned Lagos like hot metal. The compound of Sam and Sophia's modest bungalow smelled of dust, gari, and old rain. A brown jerrycan stood in the corner. A green bucket lay on its side. Clothes hung limp on a rope line that had sagged from too much waiting. Sophia dragged a purple suitcase across the rough floor, her mouth set like stone. She wore jeans and a crisp blouse that did not match the tired yard. Her eyes were sharp, not from joy, but from decision. She had braided her hair that morning like someone going somewhere new. Sam knelt on the cement, hands together, dust on his knees. "Sophia, please, just small patience. I know this interview will work. I know it. How many times have you said that?" She didn't look at him. She didn't want her heart to shake. 3 years of promises, Sam. 3 years of please wait. I can't keep wasting my life. Sam swallowed. His voice was soft but strong, the way a string holds a kite in the wind. "I am close. I can feel it. The app is ready. The demo worked. I spoke to a manager last week. He liked it." She laughed, a short, painful sound. "Liked? Did he give you a job? Did he pay the rent? Look at us. Look at this house. Look at me." She held up her fingers, empty. "I'm tired of empty." He reached for the suitcase handle. "Don't go. Let go, Sam. Please, just wait till Friday. If nothing happens, I'll pack the bag myself." Her eyes flashed. "I met someone." The words fell like a bottle breaking. Sam froze. The street beyond their gate hummed Okada. Hawkers, a slow bus. But inside the compound, only his heartbeat answered. Sophia kept talking, even though her voice wavered. "He can take care of me. He has a bar, people, money, movement. I need movement in my life." "Is it better than us?" Sam whispered. "Better than what we built. We built nothing." She pulled the handle from his hands. The suitcase wheels bumped over the threshold like small drumbeats. "I'm done. Goodbye." She left. The door side closed behind her. Sam stayed on his knees until the dust settled on his skin like grey rain. Then he stood, wiped his face with the back of his hand, and walked to his tiny desk by the window. He opened his second-hand laptop. On the screen, a simple map blinked. Dots lit up when a phone signal moved. A quiet line of code waited for a keystroke. He whispered to himself, as if the code could hear. "We will work. We must." That Friday, his phone rang. "Hello, is this Mr. Samuel, the developer of Tracelock?" a calm voice asked. Sam gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. "Yes, this is Sam. This is AfriTech. The board would like to see you. Today." The world tipped. He arrived at a glass building that mirrored the sky. The receptionist smiled with respect. 2 executives led him into a room where the city looked small and bold behind the windows. He showed them how Tracelock could lock onto call stamps and message timestamps, follow signals across rough places, and help find criminals hiding in plain lines. He explained it simply, the way a teacher explains a road on a new map. The board did not clap. They nodded, then looked at each other, with a quiet that felt like thunder warning of rain. The chairperson spoke. "Mr. Samuel, we are not offering you a salaried job." Sam's heart dropped like a stone into water. "We are offering you a partnership," she continued. 2% equity. We want Tracelock. We want you." Something inside, Sam stood up. He signed. He shook hands. He took the elevator down, then stepped into the Lagos sun that no longer felt like punishment. He called his mother. He cried, half joy, half relief. Then he went back home, opened the laptop again, and made his code stronger. Tracelock rolled out across rural communities first, where kidnappers thought darkness would hide them. It didn't. Police units began to use the tool quietly. News moved like a whisper that became a shout. Afritech's value climbed. Sam started wearing suits that actually fit. He learned to say no to some things and not yet to others. He gave to schools without making noise. He remembered dust and kept his heart clean. Meanwhile, the lows on the other road. Sophia's new life began with light and loud music. George's bar sat on a corner where people came to forget. He was charming, the way a bright sign is charming at night. He promised. He laughed. He lifted boxes with easy strength. He told Sophia, "You deserve more." And for a while, she believed him. But bills stacked like chairs nobody wanted to sit on. Fights broke out over small money. One night, two drunk men threw words like stones. Then, one threw a real stone. It hit George's eye. He fell. Blood mixed with beer on the rough floor. Shouts turned into silence as the men who did it ran into the night. Sophia screamed until her voice broke. She found a keke. She found a hospital. She found a doctor with sorry eyes. 30 million naira. The doctor said gently, "If we act fast, there is a chance." There was no fast. There was no 30 million. There was only darkness, and it settled in George's eyes and would not leave. Days turned into a grey line. The bar struggled. The customers thinned. The rent climbed. Sophia learned the weight of a walking stick. She learned where the gutters were by memory. She learned which drivers would slow down near the underbridge. She learned how to keep a man's dignity while asking strangers for help. Every night, she lay on an old mattress and stared into the kind of dark that makes you count your mistakes. Sometimes she whispered Sam's name into her pillow and hated herself for it. Sometimes she prayed. Mostly, she cried silently, so George would not hear. He heard. "Don't leave me," he would say, his voice shaking. "Please don't let me die like this." And even when her heart tried to run, her feet stayed. She held his hand. She washed his face. She led him to the bridge again the next morning, rain or no rain, pacing highs and lows, crossing paths. Sam's life moved like a well-oiled engine, quiet, strong, forward. He spoke at a conference in Abuja and met Cynthia, a data scientist with smart eyes and a laugh that sounded like morning. They talked about models and maps, about how data could save lives, about small villages that needed big help. He noticed the kindness in her questions. She noticed the gentleness in his answers. The world around them felt less noisy when they stood together. He bought a black Bentley not to show off, but because the car felt safe, like a promise kept. Yet even with all the highs, he kept one habit from the old days. He looked out of windows and watched people. He remembered where he came from. On the morning the sky opened over Oshodi, Sam sat in the back seat, reading a report about Tracelock's latest update in the north. The driver took the underbridge to beat traffic. Water ran in sheets, past beggars and sellers, and commuters carrying plastic bags as shields against the rain. The Bentley rolled to a stop. Sam's hand found the door handle before his mind could catch up. His throat tightened. "Sophia?" She flinched as if the rain had shouted. Slowly, she raised her face. Time folded. In her eyes, he saw the day she left with a purple suitcase. In his chest, she must have seen the man who begged on dusty knees. "Sam?" Her voice was just a breath. The blind man beside her turned his head, listening. His sunglasses were wet with rain. His walking stick tapped the ground near the broken gutter. People pushed by, not looking. The city's noise wrapped them like a storm blanket. Sam stepped out into the rain. The water soaked his suit in one heartbeat, but he didn't care. He moved toward them, each step heavy with years. "What happened to you?" he asked softly. Sophia's mouth opened. No words, only tears, big, hot, fast mixing with the cold Lagos rain. She tried again. Her shoulders shook. "Sam, The driver hurried around with an umbrella that suddenly felt too small for the 3 lives gathered under it. Traffic pressed and hissed. Somewhere, a hawker banged on a bus door. Somewhere else, a siren wailed, and then faded. Sophia swallowed hard. She lifted a trembling hand, as if asking the air for courage. "Please, let me tell you everything." Sam nodded once. The driver reached for the Bentley's rear door. From behind them, a Danfo swerved close, splashing a high wall of muddy water that crashed over the 3 of them. The umbrella flew from the driver's hand. George stumbled, foot slipping toward the jagged edge of the open gutter. Sophia screamed, grabbing for him. Sam lunged, and everything hung in the rain. George's foot slipped, his wooden stick clattered into the gutter. Sophia's scream tore through the roar of traffic. Sam moved with the speed of someone who had once known desperation. His hand caught George's arm just before the blind man tumbled into the rushing water below. The mud splashed across his suit, but he held on tight, pulling George back to steady ground. For a moment, all three stood frozen in the rain, the billionaire, the ex-wife, and the blind man whose sunglasses hid more than darkness. Sam's chest heaved. He turned to Sophia, water dripping from his hair. "We can't stay here. Let's talk somewhere safe." The Bentley's door opened with a soft click, out of place in the chaos of Oshodi. The driver held the umbrella wide this time. George's fingers searched the air until Sophia guided him into the plush leather seat. She followed quickly, her faded ankara sticking to her skin, leaving water stains on the luxury interior. Sam slid in last, shutting the rain outside. Inside the car, silence pressed down. Only the faint hum of the AC and the drip of rainwater from their clothes broke it. Sophia sat with her hands clenched on her lap. She dared not meet Sam's eyes, but her chest rose and fell too fast. George, head bowed, whispered, "Who is he?" "Sophia, who's this man?" Her lips trembled. He's my past." Sam looked at her fully then. His voice was calm, but each word carried weight. "Tell me what happened to you, Sophia. Tell me why I found you under a bridge, begging." At first, she couldn't. The words stuck in her throat like stones. Then, with one long, shaking breath, she let go. "I thought I was choosing a better life," she began, her voice low. "That day I walked out. I told myself I was done with your poverty. I thought George was stability." She glanced at the man beside her. His blind eyes stayed on nothing. Her voice broke. "But life doesn't always give what it promises. His bar, fights, debts, struggles. And then, that night." She covered her face with both hands, tears leaking through her fingers. "The stone, the blood, the hospital. They told us 30 million. We had nothing. Nothing." George's hand found hers, squeezing weakly. "Don't cry," he whispered. But his own voice cracked. Sophia turned fully to Sam now. For the first time since she left him, her eyes begged not for love, not for second chances, but for simple mercy. "Every day since, I have thought of you, of that dusty compound, of the man I left on his knees. Sam, look at me now. Look at what I've become." Sam said nothing. His jaw tightened. He had every reason to feel anger, even triumph. This was the moment many men would call justice. But his heart did not know how to celebrate brokenness. He looked at George once, the man who had stolen his wife, now blind, defeated, holding out a trembling hand. He looked at Sophia once, the woman who had crushed his spirit, now in tatters, her pride washed away by rain. Sam leaned back slowly, his voice steady but low. "Sophia, I was raised to be kind, even when the world isn't fair." Her breath hitched. She shook her head, disbelief in her tears. "No, you can't mean." Sam cut in gently. "Driver, take us to Lagos General." Sophia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. George frowned, confused. Why the hospital?" Sam's eyes never left Sophia's. "Because I will pay for the surgery. 30 million, if it gives him a chance to see again." The Bentley pulled away from the underbridge, cutting through the storm. Sophia covered her face, sobbing harder now, not from regret alone, but from shock. "Sam," she whispered, her voice shaking like glass about to break. "I don't deserve this. I don't deserve anything from you." Sam looked out the window at the rain-soaked streets flashing by. His reflection in the glass looked older, sharper, stronger, but inside, a boy from a dusty bungalow still spoke. "I know," he murmured. As the Bentley turned into the hospital driveway, headlights flashing on wet pavement, a nurse rushed out to meet them, her expression already grim. "Are you the ones bringing the patient for eye surgery?" she asked. "Yes," Sam answered firmly. The nurse shook her head. "You should hurry. But you may be too late." And with those words, the door opened to a new storm. The Bentley's headlights cut across the wet hospital driveway. Nurses rushed forward with a stretcher, rain dripping off their scrubs. Sam stepped out first, his navy blue suit heavy with water, but his posture unshaken. Sophia and George followed, Sophia half pulling, half guiding the blind man who stumbled forward, his hand clinging tightly to her arm. Inside the hospital, the fluorescent lights buzzed. The smell of antiseptic stung the air. Doctors hurried past with clipboards and masks. A nurse gestured them urgently down the hallway. "Quick, this way." George's walking stick tapped against the tiled floor. Sophia held her breath. Sam followed, silent, his mind already calculating solutions, his heart refusing to hope too early. At the operating theatre, a doctor in a white coat met them, his eyes tired but firm. "Are you the ones who called for the emergency eye surgery?" "Yes," Sam said. "I'll pay whatever it costs. Just save him." The doctor's face softened, but his words were heavy. "You came too late. The damage to his eyes is irreversible. No surgery can fix this now." The words fell like thunder. Sophia collapsed onto the plastic chair in the waiting area, her hands trembling violently. She buried her face in her palms and sobbed so loudly that even the nurses turned. George reached blindly for her hand, his voice a weak echo. "Don't cry, Sophia. Please, I don't want to hear you cry." She clutched his hand, shaking her head. "This is all my fault. I chose this path. I left the one man who begged me to stay, and now look at us. Look at you." Her voice broke, echoing down the corridor. Sam stood still, his eyes fixed on the doctor. His fists were clenched, but not in anger. It was the weight of helplessness pressing against his chest. He had money, power, influence, yet none of it could turn back time or restore the sight George had lost. The silence stretched, broken only by Sophia's sobs. Finally, Sam stepped forward. He looked at the doctor and nodded once. "Thank you for trying." Then he turned back to Sophia. "You may not get back his sight," Sam said, his voice steady, "but you can get back your life." Sophia lifted her tear-streaked face, her lips quivered. "What do you mean?" Sam reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a signed check. He pressed it gently into her palm. 30 million naira, he said. "The same amount I was ready to spend on the surgery. Use it to start something new, a business, a future for both of you." Sophia's eyes widened in disbelief. The check trembled in her hands. She shook her head violently. "No, Sam. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve anything from you after what I did." Sam's eyes softened. "Sophia, you're right, you don't. But I wasn't raised to live with bitterness. I was raised to give, even when it hurts." Her chest heaved. The words cut deeper than any insult could. She bowed her head, sobbing harder, clutching the check as though it were both a curse and a blessing. George, who had been silent all along, suddenly spoke, his voice calm but filled with shame. "I don't deserve your kindness either. I took your wife. I thought I had won. And now I am a blind man, being led by the woman who once betrayed you. You should hate me, Sam. Why don't you?" The corridor stilled. Nurses slowed their steps, pretending to busy themselves while listening. Sam looked at George, and for a moment his jaw tightened. Then, slowly, he knelt beside the blind man and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Because hate doesn't heal anything," Sam said quietly. "It only destroys the one carrying it. You already lost your sight, George. I won't lose my soul." Sophia gasped, covering her mouth. Tears streamed freely down her face. Even George bowed his head, trembling at the words. The doctor cleared his throat gently, breaking the silence. "You may take him home now. There's nothing more we can do here." Sophia stood, still holding the check, like it was fragile glass. Her knees shook as she turned towards Sam. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Why would you help the woman who left you, and the man who took me away?" Sam held her gaze, his face calm but unreadable. "You'll understand one day," he said softly. He turned, motioning to his driver to prepare the car, but as Sam walked toward the exit, a woman in a white blouse and black skirt stepped into the hallway, holding a conference badge that read, "Cynthia Okonjo, Data Scientist." Her sharp, kind eyes caught Sam's for just a moment, and the story shifted. The chapter closes on that stare, the air thick with the promise of something new. The corridor lights flickered as the storm outside deepened. Sam froze for a moment when his eyes met the woman in the white blouse. Her badge caught his attention. "Cynthia Okonjo, Data Scientist, Afrotech Conference Delegate." She offered a polite smile, the kind that carried both intelligence and calm. "Mr. Samuel, isn't it?" Sam blinked, surprised she knew his name. "Yes, and you are?" "Cynthia," she said, extending a hand with quiet confidence. "We met briefly at the Abuja Tech Summit. Though you were surrounded by a dozen people that day, I wasn't sure you'd remember me." He shook her hand, firm but respectful. "I do now." Behind them, Sophia clutched the check to her chest, watching the exchange. Her eyes widened as if she had just seen her replacement in a play she once starred in. The hospital corridor buzzed with movement, but for Sam and Cynthia, the world slowed. She explained quickly that she had come to Lagos to discuss a new project on using data science to improve medical logistics in rural hospitals. "I didn't expect to meet you here of all places," Cynthia admitted, glancing at George, then at Sophia, before respectfully lowering her voice. "But maybe it's not by accident." Sam nodded slowly. Something about her voice carried the weight of hope without the sting of pity. "Maybe not," he said. For the first time that evening, the storm in his chest eased. Sophia's nails dug into the check. She could barely breathe as she watched Sam and Cynthia speak like old friends. Every word felt like a reminder of what she had thrown away, the man who once knelt in dust for her, now standing tall beside a woman whose presence radiated confidence. She wanted to scream. She wanted to beg him not to move on, not yet, not in front of her. But all she could do was lower her head and whisper under her breath, "God, why did I leave him?" George, sensing her trembling, tightened his grip on her hand. "Sophia, don't look back too much. It will break you." But she was already broken. The Bentley pulled away from the hospital, carrying Sophia and George back toward Oshodi. The rain had softened into a drizzle, the streets glistening under streetlights. Sophia sat quietly, still holding the check. George finally spoke. "Sophia, we must not waste this. Whatever mistakes brought us here, we must use this chance. Do you hear me?" She nodded slowly, wiping her swollen eyes. "I hear you." Back at the hospital, Sam lingered in the lobby with Cynthia. She spoke with passion about her work, how she wanted to create predictive models for medical supply chains, ensuring medicine never ran out in rural clinics. Sam listened, genuinely moved. He saw in her the same fire he once carried when he built Tracelock, the kind of fire that doesn't burn for self alone, but for others. "Cynthia," he said, after a thoughtful pause, "Afritech needs people like you. But," he hesitated, his voice lowering, "I think I need people like you too." Her eyes softened, and for a brief second, Sam felt something he hadn't in years. The stir of new beginnings. That night, under the dim lights of their tiny room by the bridge, Sophia sat awake long after George had fallen asleep. She traced the edges of the check with her finger as though it were fragile gold. Her heart was heavy. She had food to buy, a business to start, and a husband who needed her. But in the shadows of her mind, one image haunted her, the look in Sam's eyes when he spoke to Cynthia. "He's moved on," she whispered into the darkness. "And I'm left with the ashes of my choices." Tears slid down her cheeks silently. The next morning, as Sophia prepared to go to the market with George, news spread across Oshodi like wildfire. A wealthy tech billionaire was spotted at Lagos General, discussing a groundbreaking medical project with an international data scientist. Sophia overheard women gossiping at the market stalls, their voices sharp with excitement. "They say he's planning to marry her soon." Imagine. A man with that kind of wealth and such a woman beside him. Sophia's knees weakened. The basket nearly fell from her hands. Meanwhile, at Afritech headquarters, Sam sat across a conference table from Cynthia, their laptops open, their plans flowing. But beneath the numbers and strategies, something else was taking root, something neither of them was ready to admit out loud. The whispers had become headlines. Within months, newspapers and online blogs carried the story. Billionaire tech mogul Samuel Adewale to wed data scientist Cynthia Okonjo. Photos of Sam and Cynthia hand in hand at conferences flooded social media. Their partnership wasn't just business anymore, it was personal, beautiful, and unshakable. Sophia read every article. Each picture was a knife to her chest. Yet, she kept running the provision store Sam's kindness had given her, serving customers with a forced smile, while her heart bled in silence. George, though blind, sensed her turmoil. One evening, as they sat outside the small shop after closing, he touched her hand gently. "Stop torturing yourself," he said softly. "Sam is gone. He belongs to another life now. We must build ours." But tears still burned behind Sophia's eyes. "I know, George, but knowing doesn't stop the pain." The wedding hall glittered like a palace. Golden chandeliers sparkled above, violins filled the air, and rows of wealthy guests in Ankara lace and agbadas whispered excitedly. Cameras flashed as the bride walked in, radiant in a flowing white gown. Cynthia glowed like a queen. At the altar, Sam stood tall in a perfectly tailored navy blue tuxedo, his eyes never leaving his bride. He smiled with a peace Sophia had not seen in him during their years together, a peace she had never given him. At the back of the hall, Sophia sat quietly with George beside her. She wore a simple wrapper and blouse, her hair tied back. She had begged for an invitation, not to stop the wedding, but to see with her own eyes what true love looked like when it was not built on greed. The choir sang. The vows were exchanged. Guests clapped and cheered as Sam and Cynthia were pronounced husband and wife. Sophia's palms stung as she clapped, her tears spilling freely. The sound of joy in the hall was louder than her regrets. 2 years passed. Sam and Cynthia's home was filled with laughter, late-night coding sessions, and eventually the soft cries of a newborn baby girl named Juliana. Sam held her in his arms, his strong hands trembling with emotion. He kissed her tiny forehead and whispered, "I prayed for this day. I thought I had lost everything once, but God gave me back more than I ever imagined." Cynthia, standing beside him, smiled through tears. "She's perfect, Sam." Across town, Sophia's provision store had grown into one of the biggest in her street. She had learned to save, to plan, and to love George in his blindness, accepting that her choice had consequences she could never erase. Still, at night, when she closed her shop, she would sit on the wooden stool outside and remember Sam's kindness, a kindness that rebuilt her life, even though she had destroyed his once. One Sunday afternoon, Sophia and George sat on a bench outside their store. A car horn honked, and when she looked up, her heart skipped. It was the black Bentley. The door opened, and Sam stepped out, holding little Juliana in his arms, while Cynthia followed behind. The crowd at Oshodi gathered quickly, whispering and pointing. Sophia stood, trembling. She wanted to hide, but her legs wouldn't move. Sam smiled warmly. "Sophia." Her lips parted, but no words came. Cynthia stepped forward, her face kind. "Sam told me about everything. About your story. About how far you've come. We wanted to stop by." Sophia's eyes flooded. She bent low, kneeling on the dusty ground. "I don't deserve your kindness. Not then. Not now." Sam shook his head, lifting her gently to her feet. "Sophia, life is not about what we deserve. It's about what we choose to give. And I choose peace." George's sightless eyes filled with tears at the sound of those words. "Thank you, Sam, for not leaving us to die." Sam smiled at him. "Live well, George. Both of you. That's all the thanks I need." As the Bentley pulled away, Juliana waved her tiny hand out the window. Sophia stood frozen, watching until the car disappeared into the busy Lagos street. She wiped her eyes, turned to George, and whispered, "I will never forget him. Not because of what I lost, but because of what he gave me even after I hurt him." George squeezed her hand gently. "Then let's honor that gift. By living." Sophia nodded, her face wet with tears, but her heart steadier than it had ever been. And somewhere across the city, Sam kissed his daughter's forehead again, whispering softly, "The past is gone. The future is here, and I will guard it with everything I have." If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.